Assen circuit for another magic MotoGP battle. Assen has been the scene of some of MotoGP's most memorable moments, and we're ready for more of the same in 2023. It's time to race in MotoGP. So known around the world as the Cathedral of Speed, 4.54 kilometres in length, 2.822 miles. Technically challenging, fast down flowing, high speed chain direction, 18 corners, 12 right, 6 left, including that always dramatic Timmer chicane. Tight first sector before you move to classic Assen through the second and third sectors, and then before the wonderful fourth sector. And this was one of the overtakes of 2022 on the last lap for fourth place. Alex Espargaro on the inside of Brad Binder, Jack Miller in the Timmer chicane. More of the same, please, gents. Starting fifth. Good afternoon and welcome back to a scorching hot, a sizzling TT Circuit Assen. As the temperature soars to over 30 degrees as we begin the countdown to round 8 of the 2023 MotoGP World Championship. And the Premier Class boys have a tough act to follow. Moto 3 and Moto 2 have just provided fantastic drama to take us into the 5-week summer break. But now we go full focus and maximum attention on the final pre-summer break showdown in MotoGP, as we look to see if Ducati star, rising star Marco Bezzecchi can complete a dream hat-trick and follow up what Pecco or what Jorge Martin did a couple of races ago. Bezzecchi then, pole position yesterday with a new all-time lap record, and then he starred in the Saturday sprint yesterday, and he's the big favourite coming into this 30-lap Motul TT Assen. Some of the best conditions I think we've ever experienced in this part of northeastern Netherlands. I've been coming here since 1996. Valentino Rossi is the most successful rider around this iconic circuit, including his last win back in 2017. And he has the dream front row to watch from his sofa in Tavullia as the VR46 Academy trio of Pecco Bagnaia, Marco Bezzecchi and Luca Marini launch from the front row. And don't discount Fabio Quartararo and Brad Binder charging from row 2. Always a special feeling, a very special atmosphere as you come to Assen to soak up the history and the heritage of this such a fantastic venue. They've been racing in this part of the northeast Netherlands for nearly 100 years. This was some sad news though to kick off race day here ahead of the 5-week summer break, a 5-week summer break which can't come soon enough, can it, for Marc Marquez, because the sad news, for the 5th time in 8 Grand Prix in 2023, this man, 8 times world champion, Marc Marquez, will not feature in the main event. This time last week, he was sitting out the German Grand Prix, a cracked rib, a swollen ankle and a broken finger, a number of injuries after a high-speed warm-up crash at the Sachsenring. He did ride here on Friday, did ride here yesterday to a lowly 17th in the sprint. Well, this is Marc Marquez saying right now, I'm in one of my most difficult professional moments. Now I need to work. I have a month and a half to rebuild all these things to get my confidence back. Marc Marquez then declared unfit for this Dutch TT in Assen. He has done a media debrief earlier on today in the Netherlands, in the paddock here in Assen, where he was inevitably asked about his future. He batted off speculation about a move out of Honda in 2024, saying now is not the right time to be thinking about his future. These were Alberto Puig's thoughts when asked about the current situation and Marc Marquez's woes about potentially moving on. Every person is free to do what they want to do in life. Honda is not a company that wants to have people that are not happy being at Honda. We have a contract with him, but also Honda respects Marc a lot. Some very, very interesting interviews with Marc Marquez then and HRC team manager Alberto Puig. That's just adding fuel to an already big fire, isn't it, about whether Marc Marquez will be at HRC in 2024. He feels like at the moment not physically and mentally in the right place to make big calls on whether he'll be at HRC in 2024. He wants more clarity, which maybe will come over the next 5 weeks or so. But Matt Burt-Lewis and Simon Crayford talking you through. This was a pretty frenetic start to the sprint yesterday for Miguel Oliveira, Lewis.
It was. Jorge Martin starting from the fourth row of the grid. Had a good view of all the drama as Johann Zarco made contact there with Miguel Oliveira. Both the Prima Pramac Ducatis were keen to make up ground from poor qualifying situations, and then Miguel Oliveira found himself in a Marquez sandwich coming towards Harbach at the end of the first lap. So there was plenty of early drama, and not just at the front of the field in yesterday's sprint. Miguel Oliveira, in the end, came across the line in 19th place. So his sprint, unfortunately for him, was scrapped after a lap and a quarter. He will be looking to rectify that today from 11th on the grid. But as far as the battle at the front, we're expecting it to be between the two Ducatis at the front, Bezzecchi and Bagnaia. But can Fabio Quartararo muscle in on the battle at the front? Let's get the pre-race thoughts of his team manager, Maio Meregali, who's with Simon downstairs.
Maio, was a breath of fresh air seeing Fabio back near the front and over the long distance. I kind of get the feeling he's got just as much chance or even more. How do you feel?
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, it was a really big bunch of fresh air yesterday after the sprint race, and yeah, we were happy, as you can imagine, after this such difficult period. And he was quite happy, and being behind the others, he saw that they had a little more drop on the rear tire than us. So for sure, most of the riders today will switch from soft rear to medium, and we are happy. We are quite confident with the medium, but now we have to see if and when people will have the drop. So far, also the warm-up we did with the medium was good. So it will highly depend of the start, because as you saw yesterday, for us it's difficult to overtake. And yeah, to be second the first corner will be perfect.
Maio, thank you for your thoughts, and best of luck this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Monster Energy Yamaha rider Maio Meregali, or team manager rather, happy with his rider from yesterday. Some light at the end of what's been a dark tunnel. Fabio Quartararo's first sprint podium of the season. Yesterday, this man, as he has been all weekend pretty much here in Assen, completely untouchable. A first sprint victory for Marco Bezzecchi. Last year in the Dutch TT, the main Grand Prix, he had a very good fight with his good buddy and reigning world champion Pecco Bagnaia. Well, those two locked horns again in yesterday's sprint. Who's going to have the upper hand? Who'll make it 2-1 in this 26-lap Grand Prix of the Netherlands coming up very, very shortly? You do feel, well, they're both sort of pointing their finger at each other, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're sort of like, well, Marco Bezzecchi's going, oh no, Pecco's the favourite. He's got the better tyre management than me. He's stronger in the second half of the race. And Bagnaia just fires straight back and going, oh no, Marco Bezzecchi, he's the crystal clear favourite. He was polled faster than both sessions on Friday. The winner of the sprint. Going to be really fascinating to see those two go at it again today, just as they did 1 year ago in the Grand Prix, and just as they did 24 hours ago in that exciting sprint.
Along with those comments that they said in the press conference yesterday, Pecco Bagnaia did also say, we'll trash talk in private. We won't trash talk in public, so potentially there's going to be a little bit of talk between the two of them. Can Bagnaia fight back, or can Bezzecchi do the double? Can the Prima Pramac Ducatis also get involved? Johan Zarco goes from 8th, Jorge Martin from 10th. Let's get the pre-race thoughts of their team manager Gino Borsoi with Simon.
Gino, it's a more difficult weekend to predict on your riders. You know, the speed is clearly there with Jorge, and it looked like he had the front tyre temperature, but maybe caused from having to push so hard to come through or following people, I don't know. Love your thoughts on that. But also Johan Zarco, it's been a difficult one to read this weekend. Can you tell us what's happening?
Well, for sure, the most difficult weekend so far right now for us. Seems that our setup doesn't work very well in this track because both of them are struggling. So we are trying to help them to make some changes on the setup, especially with Zarco. We moving from his standard setup to, let's say, close to Jorge's setup because seems he's a bit better here, but still he's suffering a bit. And now let's see with the front choice of tire if we are able to make a good race, because as you said, when you are behind and the temperature goes up, then become difficult to ride the bike, especially in this track. So I'm quite optimistic because the riders are happy about the warm-up of today. We found something, but as you know, it's not easy when you start from the back.
One other question. Watching yesterday's race, Jorge Martin coming through, I don't know if this is wishful thinking or what, but it looked to me that he had the pace of even Bez in them at the front, if not like very close at least.
Yeah, the pace was there, especially at the beginning, but then the temperature of front tire goes up, and it become for him really difficult to ride the bike. So this was the key of yesterday. We had, as I said before, we had some changes. Finger crossed, and let's see if we really are there or not.
Thank you for your time, and best of luck, Gino.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Gino Borsoi. Are we going to see yet another double podium on a Sunday for the Prima Pramac racing team? Well, that looks like long odds on that one. There's Johan Zarco having a torrid time in yesterday's sprint. He chose the medium front tyre. Did not work from the get-go. Limped home in 13th place. This man had his dramas as well, didn't he? The Martinator, Jorge Martin. He came home in 6th place in the sprint, having had a big spike in front tyre pressure. He was as low as 13th place at one point in the early part of that sprint. So then, Ducati expects once again. They've had a phenomenal start to 2023. Let's just have a quick look at this replay. Jorge Martin was 10th on the grid after a mistake in Q2. That's what dumped him on that 4th row, and he got round wide in the first corner. He was as far back as 13th place, got himself back into podium contention. He's trying to go the long way around here, and it's just a late spike on his inside. Look how far off the circuit Jorge Martin goes. Frankie Morbidelli there briefly got through him, didn't he, as well, as they went into the second corner. So that was really what disturbed and ended Martin's hopes of a 7th successive podium. Now then, Ducati are having an incredible 2023, aren't they? Big hopes of yet another potential podium lockout here this afternoon, with Pecco Bagnaia looking to increase his 21-point lead in the World Championship. Thanks for their patience. I've got Ducati course sporting director Paolo Ciabatti waiting to speak to Simon. Thank you, guys.
Paolo, would love your thoughts going into this, you know, twice the distance race compared to yesterday's sprint, and especially about obviously the Ducati riders, but also who you think will be their competition.
Well, actually, I think that seeing a little bit the whole weekend and yesterday's race, I'm pretty sure that Bagnaia and Bezzecchi will be in the leading group. Let's see, probably will be obviously a different tire strategy, and I expect also the KTM and maybe the Aprilias to be there. So it's quite hot, I think quite humid. Let's see, an interesting race, but I think Pecco and Marco will be the ones to watch.
You know that I'm nosy when it comes to machine settings and setups. I noticed this morning in warm-up that Pecco had a setting that looked very much like Bez's, and he ran the whole warm-up on it, and it's still there now. I guess he liked it.
Yeah, he was very happy after the warm-up. He said he got a very good feeling. He liked the tire, the grip. So yeah, slightly, or not slightly, a better feeling than what he had yesterday. Let's see. Obviously, a long race is always a challenge, but I think we have good chances with him.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Paolo Ciabatti then. Pecco Bagnaia, the race winner here last year in the main Grand Prix from pole position. That kicked off a great run for Pecco Bagnaia. He went on to win the 3 following Grand Prix as well to become the first Ducati rider in history to win 4 on the spin. Will it be 4 podiums on Sundays on the spin for informed Frenchman Johann Zarco. 250th Grand Prix start this afternoon, a proud moment for him. Jack Miller also has a big day, 200th Grand Prix start for the Australian, but Zarco was absent without leave, wasn't he, yesterday, Lewis? I mean, obviously, he incurred the wrath of Aleix Espargaro and Miguel Oliveira after a pretty aggressive move on the very first lap, but he hit big front tyre problems from the get-go and limped home in a bitterly disappointing 13th place. Not what we expected from a man who's looked in such good nick over the last few weeks.
The weekend started pretty poorly for Johann Zarco. He had a crash in practice 1 earlier in the weekend as well, a fast one too, coming through the Ramschut corner and then going into qualifying 1, which is unusual for Johann Zarco this season. Got through that, managed to qualify on that 3rd row of the grid, but as you say, he ran into front tyre problems, went for the medium front in the sprint, one of the few riders to do so. The vast majority went for the soft front tyre, and Johann Zarco just didn't have the confidence on that particular option. Just said that decision was a mistake, so it was impossible under braking as well for him to make that move. Many went for the hard front tyre, of course, rather than the medium. And Johann Zarco, in the end, coming through down in 8th, or starting in 8th place and missing out on the points. Johann Zarco actually came across the line in 13th place. He's still chasing a 4th consecutive Sunday podium this afternoon, is Zarco. But that seems a bit of a tall order from 8th position on the grid, because he's not shown signs this weekend that he's got the pace to go too far forward from there. But don't write the Frenchman off. We've just seen the beast, Enea Bastianini, of course, still working his way back to full fitness. He was the perpetrator of an aggressive move on Luca Marini going into the Timor chicane yesterday. That pushed Marini, who started on the front row, back into 10th place. He got a half a second penalty due to shortcutting the chicane at turn 17. He was pretty aggrieved about that, saying, well, what could he do? Because there was contact from Enea Bastianini that put him into that chicane. But Marini, very disappointing, just did not have the speed at all, didn't he? Having started on that front row, he finished in 10th. Fabio Di Giannantonio, well, he was the only non-finisher in yesterday's sprint. The first time he's not seen the checker flag on a Saturday afternoon. Now then, there was late drama, wasn't there, yesterday for the Red Bull Catering Factory Racing team. They thought they'd be celebrating a hard-earned podium for Brad Binder, but he had that exceeding track limit penalty, which dropped him 3rd to 5th place. But Binder clearly has got good speed. Super happy with the performance of his KTM. Solved some front end and some rear grip issues from his crew, and Jack Miller always going to be charging through from 12. Let's get some thoughts pre-race from their team manager Francesco Guidotti, who's with Simon.
Yes, he is. I just saw you having a bit of banter, pre-race banter with Jack. I imagine he's always entertaining. About yesterday's sprint, he looked to struggle a bit in it. I didn't expect that, or in qualifying. Brad didn't. He looked absolutely fantastic, confident out there, but it didn't go to plan. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, we suffer in the sprint race with Jack of vibration we already had in the qualifying, and this morning we solved it during the warm-up, and with Brad, yeah, he was super fast, but unfortunately the long lap penalty that we paid.
Sorry guys, just let these bikes pull away. Sorry, and that long lap penalty, we'll have to come back.
No problem, Simon. Yeah, we'll pick it up just as soon as the pit lane has cleared. Yeah, these 300 horsepower MotoGP bikes, they create quite a sound, don't they, when they leave the pit lane. So just as soon as it quietens down, we'll pick it up again with Francesco Guidotti, who, as you mentioned, was expecting to be part of the Tissot Sprint post-race ceremony yesterday, wasn't he? But the bronze medal was whipped away from Brad Binder after that track limits penalty, and that pushed Fabio Quartararo onto the podium. We'll just let a couple more bikes fill try to pit lane before we go back to Simon. I think it's quieting down enough now so we can hear, as we should do, in full voice, Simon Crafart and Francesco Guidotti. Back to you guys.
Sorry about that, Francesco. Tell us, please continue.
Yeah, with Brad, was a shame to lose the podium spot for the 3-second penalty about the long lap. He didn't realize at all. He went just once because of he lost the front end, and then he went wide. But the two more green, I didn't realize to have touched. So yeah, it was a really bad surprise for him and for us.
Okay, in today's race, your thoughts?
Oh, we will try again. The starting point is a very good one for Brad, and we hope to have more lucky with Jack as well.
Thank you.
Thanks to Francesco Guidotti, thanks to Simon Crafar. What a shot that is. You can see how hot it's been in this part of the Netherlands for a good month or so now. The scorched grass around this cathedral of speed. Talking to some of the locals, they were saying that there's been maybe 2 or 3 hours, 1 day's worth of rain in the last month or so. Let's have a look here then. Leaving pit lane, two great mates, but about to be fierce rivals, aren't they? They just give the signal, acknowledge each other as they slot alongside each other on the grid for this 26-lap Dutch TT. Is it going to be another showdown between Bezzecchi and Bagnaia? Who is going to go into the summer break with the 25 points tucked away in their pocket? Bagnaia's great run on Saturdays in the sprint. 7 podiums in the sprint so far this season for Bagnaia. 74 of his World Championship points collected. 74 of his 169 have been taken on Saturdays. Just shows the importance of being consistent, not just on Sundays, Lewis, but in those sprints as well, because Bagnaia, without any question, he's been the big winner on Saturday so far this season.
And that all comes largely from qualifying well as well, which Marco Bezzecchi hasn't always done this season. I guess it's fair to say, looking through Marco Bezzecchi's qualifying record so far this year, this is just the second time in 2023 that he's qualified on the front row of the grid. The other time he qualified on the front row, he went on to take second in the sprint and then won in the wet in Argentina. So Marco Bezzecchi having got Saturdays right this time, Saturday morning right, obviously that translated into the afternoon, and will it translate into victory here today? Fabio Quartararo, well, he's got the speed, it appears, to challenge for the podium today. Has he got the physical endurance? That might well be the biggest question mark hanging over the 2021 world champion. We saw even in the 10-minute warm-up session this morning, Quartararo was stretching out and flexing that left foot after that injury sustained while running earlier on in the week. He'll surely be on some strong painkillers coming into this Grand Prix.
Another wonderful helicopter shot overlooking this Assen circuit as we pick up the drone now. Filtering ahead over the grid, a grid that sadly lacks Marc Marquez, but it does feature two men who had a great Dutch TT here 1 year ago. Maverick Vinales is first, Aprilia podium, and a stunning charge back through the field after being collected by Fabio Quartararo at the Struven early on. Aleix Espargaro 15th to 4th, including that sensational last lap double overtake. What are the pre-race prospects or the thoughts of Aprilia boss Paolo Bonoro? He's with Simon.
Paolo, my gut feeling is this circuit suits your machine, especially after what we've seen in the past from it. What do you think is possible for your two riders on your machine this afternoon?
Yeah, you're fully right. This circuit helps us a lot because there is no braking for sure. Fast corner, fluent corner, so our bike likes a lot, and also our rider likes a lot this behavior, this riding style. For sure, the weather is hotter than yesterday, and we tried to be in the front since the first part of the race, because yesterday Aleix lose the possibility to be more in the front, and we hope for a good start for sure.
He lose the possibility because front tire temperature following other bikes, or?
No, because he has many overtaking to do. He force quite a bit during the and he lose the first rider. So when you lose the first rider, more than 1 second is so difficult, in particular for a sprint race, to recover them.
Thank you, and best of luck this afternoon.
Thanks so much, Simon. Thanks.
Thanks, Simon. You saw the grid rolling through the picture just a short moment ago. Of course, Marco Bezzecchi starts from pole position from Pecco Bagnaia and Luca Marini. Interesting split on the tyre front. In terms of the choice between the medium and the soft rear tyre, Brad Binder, the sole rider within the top 6, who is starting on the soft rear tyre. Johan Zarco, Alex Marquez and Jack Miller have also gone for the soft rear tyre. So too Fabio Di Giannantonio, Taka Nakagami, Lorenzo Savadori and Enea Bastianini. They are the key contenders on the soft rear tyre.
And Mike van Vleuten, Olympic champion. She is going to be waving the checkered flag at the end of this Grand Prix. What a special moment that will be for her. Of course, it was our 1000th Grand Prix just a few weeks ago, wasn't it, where MotoGP legend Giacomo Agostini had the pleasure and privilege of waving the checkered flag. Van Vleuten, Olympic champion and 4 times world champion pro cyclist. That's not a bad CV at all, isn't it? A special moment for her then at the end of this 26-lap Dutch TT. Johan Zarco then, with a fair amount of work to do after his 13th place in the sprint. 8th place on the grid goes the Frenchman after his high-speed crash in P1. But what a weekend it has been so far in the Assen sunshine. The sun's certainly shining on 24 Italian Marco Bezzecchi right now. Pole position on Saturday morning, the sprint win on Saturday afternoon. What beckons for Bears on Sunday afternoon here in Assen? Well, let's get the thoughts pre-race of Pablo Nieto, his team boss, who's with Simon.
He is. Pablo, I'd love to hear from you on both riders. Bears this weekend, just awesome from practice 1 all the way till yesterday's sprint. I expect the same in the race. I'd love to hear if you do, but also let us know about Luca, his 1-lap speed there, and struggled in the sprint yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday we make amazing job. I think we missed a little bit with Luca, that he had some problem yesterday, but today in the warm-up we tried different setup of the bike and he likes a little bit better, so we will continue with this setup. And then with Marco, we will see. It's difficult to say, no, because it's going to be very, very hard race. Pecco is in a very good moment. He always is over there. It's really, really important to try to make a very good the first 2 laps, because in the end we saw it in the past that the first 2 laps is one of the main points of the race, and then after that one you have to see where you are and try to make a very good race.
Thanks, Pablo.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Pablo Nieto. Can they continue their great record so far in 2023? Marco Bezzecchi, the winner of the Argentinian Grand Prix at Termas Rio Hondo, the winner of that dramatic 1000th Grand Prix at Le Mans. And this one, you feel, it's a Grand Prix win, the Dutch TT at such a classic and historic venue like we have in Assen, that this is a race win in the Premier Class that every rider wants on their CV. Pecco Bagnaia had that honour here 1 year ago. This man trying to take the big prize here today. He's got a lot of support in the grandstand. He was soaking up the atmosphere post-Tissot sprint yesterday, wasn't he, Marco Bezzecchi?
Of course, there's the World Championship permutations that also figure into this Grand Prix. Marco Bezzecchi 31 points behind Pecco Bagnaia and 10 behind Jorge Martin. So what order will they be in? And look at that, what a lovely story. That could potentially go full circle today. Back in 2005, Marco Bezzecchi was here with his family supporting Valentino Rossi. Today, is Valentino going to watch Marco Bezzecchi follow in his footsteps and win the Dutch TT?
2005 was 1 year that Valentino Rossi won this Dutch TT. Now, let's go and see what's happening to Yamaha in the present day. A bit of a morale boost yesterday for Fabio Quartararo on the sprint podium. Let's get some thoughts from Yamaha boss Lynn Jarvis, who's with Simon.
Lynn, it looks and sounds like there's some real hope back in the Yamaha camp, and feels like you think it's possible, the team in general, that Fabio could do something special.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yesterday obviously was a really, really good sign. Qualification 4, then in the result to get the podium. And Fabio's feeling after the race was it can be the same today. I think it really depends if we're able to tag on behind the Ducatis at the start. We've got to get out of the gate quickly. And it's a longer race today. It's very, very hot. I don't think his toe will be a problem. So it's a matter of race strategy and tyre durability. And it's a fairly conservatively confident.
Thank you, Lynn, and good luck this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks to Lynn Jarvis. Thanks, Simon. 2 years ago, of course, here in 2021, Fabio Quartararo did win this Dutch TT. What a difference a year makes. Well, he came here 12 months ago to Assen, having won in Catalonia, having won the Sachsenring, on course for 3 straight wins. And he arrived in Assen 91 points clear of this man, who looked dead and buried in the championship chase. But then the picture completely changed as Quartararo had 2 crashes in this very Grand Prix 1 year ago, and this man held off Marco Bezzecchi to take a win. It was the first of 4 in a row for Pecco Bagnaia, and that was a sort of seismic shift in the balance of power, wasn't it, in the 2022 MotoGP World Championship chase. Complete role reversal though this year. It's Bagnaia that comes into this Grand Prix as the championship leader, with Fabio Quartararo still inside the top 10 as the fans start to fill up the seats. What a vantage point that is, one of the best vantage points in Grand Prix racing, that floating grandstand over the magnificent timber chicane. Is there going to be more fireworks and more drama as we head into there? Of course, this man's brother Marc Marquez has had his fair share of skirmishes there with none other than Valentino Rossi back in 2015. Alex Marquez, what is it fair to say, a solid rather than spectacular sprint yesterday. I think he's said, Lewis, he made a mistake almost in every one of the first 5 corners, and that really put him on the back foot.
Yeah, and if you find yourself down the field in MotoGP these days, with how competitive it is up and down the field, it's so difficult to fight your way through. There are no slow riders these days in MotoGP. Alex Marquez, who had that really tough run of form through the mid part of this first phase of the season, where he had 6 out of 8 DNFs, which was a run that was ended in Germany last time out. Came across the line, as you say, in the sprint yesterday to take the final point, promoted into the top 9 with that point on the final lap. Let's head quickly back down to the grid and get some thoughts from Honda. Stefan Bradl in for Alex Rins this weekend at LCR. He's on the grid with Simon.
He is. Stefan, it must be always hard stepping in, you know, as a test rider, jumping into races like you do. But it looks to me that you're even doing development in the race with some new different parts starting the race today.
Well, yeah, it's a busy week, to be honest. With the test in Misano we had Tuesday, Wednesday, and yeah, now race Sunday. I'm on the 3rd different chassis this week, so it's a little bit tough at the moment to understand the situation. Obviously, yeah, let's try to collect some data and see how we can useful be in the summer break, because that's the most important right now. Try to finish the race in the best possible way, try to learn from the others a little bit, and try to enjoy as much as possible.
Thanks, Stefan.
Yeah, thanks to Stefan Bradl, deputising this weekend for the injured Alex Rins at LCR Honda. Just a little bit of pre-race housekeeping before we get the Dutch national anthem. We have Ike Lecuona, Honda World Superbike star, replacing the injured Joan Mir. And what we think will be for the final time, it was great to see Pol Espargaro back in the MotoGP paddock here in Assen for the first time since his horrendous crash in Portimao practice. Serious multiple injuries. Jonas Folger continues to stand in for him. And we have Lorenzo Savadori now completing what is a 5-strong Aprilia entry in this Dutch TT. Luca Marini then, he said yesterday, a disaster and a nightmare in the sprint, just no front feeling whatsoever. And if you're missing front feeling around these high-speed Assen corners, well, that is not a particularly pleasant experience, is it? Marini started on the front row of the grid, but struggled home in a very lonely 10th place. He goes from the front row for the 4th time this year, though. Has he found something to get him closer in that battle with Bezzecchi and Bagnaia?
Because if he hasn't, it's going to be interesting to see what role he plays at the front of this field. If Bagnaia and Bezzecchi are able to get out ahead of Marini, if he's going to form a bit of a rolling roadblock early in this Grand Prix, Marini will be hoping that he doesn't. Of course, the rider to watch, as is so often in the case early in these starts, is the leading KTM on the grid. That, of course, is Brad Binder. He will start from 5th. Of course, he got straight in amongst the Ducatis from the front row yesterday in the sprint. He'll be hoping to do the same again here this afternoon.
So will Pecco Bagnaia be the first rider to win back-to-back Dutch TTs since Valentino Rossi in 2004 and 2005? We're going to take a short pause as we get set for the traditional pre-race ceremony and the Dutch national anthem.
Wilhelmus van Nassau ben ik van Duitsen bloed. Den vaderland getrouw blijf ik tot in den dood. Een prinsen van Oranje blijf ik vrij onverwit. En koning van Spanje heb ik altijd geëerd.
A full house at the Cathedral of Speed on its feet for Ellen Van Tam and the Royal Military Band performing the national anthem. Back down to the grid and let's get a word from Crypto Data RNF. Raul Fernandez starts 16th, Miguel Oliveira in 11th, Wilco Zeelenberg is with Simon.
Well, first question's got to be, Wilco, how does it feel to be back on the grid and hear your national anthem, your own one?
Yeah, it's goose pimples. You know, we like Assen and the weather is fantastic. I think it's the hottest day of the season, so I'm proud to see so many crowd and to be on the grid with the boys.
Speaking of the boys, both Raul Fernandez and Miguel Oliveira, I'd love your thoughts going into this one.
Well, of course, after the injuries we had, it's still kind of recovery time. Even they do well, but you know, the pace is good, but the quality is not as good as we want, because we need to be more in front to get a lot of points, and they're not ready for that. So we are hope to see we can do a good race and then go into those 5 weeks and get stronger.
Thank you and good luck this afternoon.
Welcome.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Wilco Zeelenberg, former World Championship podium finisher himself, and now they're in the hottest conditions of the weekend so far. Good point made by Wilco Zeelenberg, arguably the hottest condition we've had of the season so far here in Holland. How is that going to influence tyre choice? Well, we can find out from Piero Taramasso, Michelin Motorsport Manager, who's for Simon.
Piero, it's hotter today by the feel and a lot longer distance, double. Give us your thoughts on tyres.
Yes, a longer distance and more temperature on the track, so we are around 50 degrees, so it's very hot, especially for this track here. And yeah, this morning after the warm-up, the choice was front, of course, everybody with the hard one, maybe one or two riders with the medium, and in the rear this morning was half soft, half medium, but now because of the track temperature, more and more riders, they are switching on the rear medium. So more medium on the rear because of the temperature and the distance. But we still have KTM with the soft on the rear. We have the two Gresini. So we have to see. But yeah, it is a little bit risky choice, but he can do until the end of the race. We don't know exactly what lap that will happen the drop, but I mean, he will go to the end.
Thank you, Piero.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Piero Taramasso. Pecco Bagnaia on the medium rear tyre had great speed and consistency when he ran it on Friday and on Saturday morning. And that was why this young man was pretty wary of the threat coming from his VR46 Academy stablemate. Still some yellow pockets in the grandstands here. Grazie, Vale. Thank you to Valentino Rossi, who I'm sure is tuned in back in Tavuglia with an all VR46 Academy front row. Who would ever forget Valentino Rossi? Well, who'd have thought at the time it was going to be his last MotoGP victory here in 2017. 2009 here as well. Valentino Rossi took his 100th Grand Prix victory, one of only two riders, of course, in the 74-year history of this great championship to take more than 100 wins. But it's with his protégés, it's with his boys now who we turn our attention to, as Pecco Bagnaia looks to extend or certainly consolidate his pretty healthy advantage in the World Championship. The only way that he can lose his World Championship lead is, of course, if he doesn't finish, and then the man in second place, Jorge Martin, wins this Dutch TT.
which will be a tall order for Jorge Martin, coming through from 10th on the grid. He's going to have to make quick early progress before he potentially runs into any front tyre temperature or pressure problems, which what he did yesterday. He managed to catch very quickly that battle for the podium positions involving Quartararo, Binder, Aleix Spargaro, of course led by Bagnaia, but Martin was unable to do anything with it when he got there. He'll also be plotting in his mind where he can put himself on the run down to Harbach, the first corner, because yesterday he was on the outside heading into turn 1 and ended up getting ran out of road and pushed off the track, which cost him a lot of momentum. So strategy into that first corner and positioning yourself the right part of the racetrack is going to be important, particularly for Martin as he looks to make early progress.
It's hot down on that grid, no question about it. The atmosphere and the tension reaching fever pitch as we are just over 3 minutes away from the start of the warm-up lap here in Assen. It's today Marco Bezzecchi's day as he looks to complete what will be a hat-trick of wins in the first 8 Grand Prix. Who would have thought we'd be saying that going into summer break for a rider who was not really hotly tipped to be so strong as he has been in the first part of this season. So the safety car, the BMW, peels away from the start. 5 minutes away we are then from lights out here in this 26-lap Motul TT Assen. I'm told that there are 105,000 fans here today. 105,800 fans have packed into this magnificent Assen circuit to witness potentially more Ducati domination. Luca Marini finds himself on the front row of the grid for the 6th time in his MotoGP career, 4th time this year. Pecco Bagnaia looking to make it back-to-back Dutch TT wins. But there's been one man in complete charge of this Dutch TT weekend so far. Marco Bezzecchi starts from pole position. Is there more brilliance coming from Bez?